Hello everyone, welcome back to another video. My name is Dylan and I'm here today with my 5 top facts you need to know going into the 2024 SATs papers. Now, we've done a lot of preparation on our channel about learning facts and things. So we've got lots of maths videos about area or fractions or place value, whatever it might be. We've got a whole bunch of videos about GPS. Hayden's in the middle of a series about comprehension and how best to answer those questions. Now, that's the main way you can prepare. Get better at maths and English, pretty obvious, right? But there is another way, and that's what this video is focusing on today. And it's going to be facts about previous papers and trends. Because we're very lucky with the SATs papers that they are published every year by the government. Anyone can see them at any point. So we take advantage of that and we look and we see, okay, what type of questions have come up? What might appear in the test? What do I need to know before I even step foot in the room to do the test, but instead weeks before when I'm doing my preparation? What patterns are there? Well, we're going to take a look, and here are 5 facts about the previous maths papers which will help you with your preparation. So firstly, I just want to say that this video is inspired by these people. Now, you may have heard of Learning by Questions before. They are absolutely fantastic. This is not a sponsored video or anything like that. I'm simply a teacher who understands how great Learning by Questions is. It might have been used in schools near you. It's where you can log in and you get access to questions upon questions, hundreds of thousands, I think, of questions on there to prepare you for maths and English. They also have some other ones as well. It's all on the iPad or laptops, and it immediately gives you feedback on how you're getting on. They have loads of stuff for SATs preparation. They're absolutely brilliant. And Sophie B is one of the friends of ours, mine and Hayden's. We've talked to her a lot in the past. She is a Year 5/6 teacher and she writes blogs, and she delves into the statistics when it comes to SATs. What's come up previously, what trends do we have, what patterns do we have, and I can't recommend enough reading her blogs. She is simply amazing. I'll leave a link in the description below if you want some more detail. But it was one of her blogs that really got us thinking, and we're using some of her data today. So do make sure you go and follow her, because she is absolutely fantastic and just a lovely human being as well. So what's fact number 1? Fact number 1 is that it's called the Key Stage 2 SATs for a reason. Now, you may have heard your teachers or me say the Year 6 SATs because we do them in Year 6. No. We need to reframe ourselves going into this test. It's called the Key Stage 2 SATs. This test is testing everything you learned, not just in Year 6, but also in Year 5 and Year 4 and Year 3. And the reason why this is important is because over 50% of the math SATs papers, so over half of the marks available, contain questions from Year 3, Year 4, or Year 5 curriculum. Let that sink in for a second. You could not go through Year 6 at all and not learn any Year 6 objectives and still be able to answer over half of the questions and get over half of the marks in the SATs paper. That is crazy. Now, here are the actual stats, okay? So over 50%, like I've just said, and every single year, we can see here what percentage were from Year 3, 4, and 5. In 2016, it was 57%. 58%, 53%, always over half, 52%, 63% in 2022, and last year 59%. So we can safely say that there's a trend here that over half the marks available are from Year 3, 4, and 5 objectives. So even if you just spend all of Year 6 practicing really hard on your Year 3, 4, and 5 curriculum and not learning anything new, you could still answer between 50 and 60% of the marks and get them in the real test. That's crazy to me. So something we need to know there before we even go into the test: how strong are your foundations? How well do you know your Year 3, 4, and 5 curriculum? Because that is a huge chunk of these tests. Okay. Fact 2, you only need just over 50% to pass. This is a separate fact from before, because we've spoken before, haven't we, in a video where I said everything you need to know about the 2024 SATs. I did say something about how these are marked and the way you're given your scores. So yes, you'll have a raw score. A raw score is simply literally how many marks you got, but then that is transferred into a standardized score. A standardized score of 100 is what we class as a pass, or we might say age expected standard. So to get a standardized score of 100, you just need just over 50%. So in 2023, it was actually the lowest percentage of raw score that you needed to achieve the expected standard. You only needed 51% on your maths papers. When you add up all of the scores, you only needed to get 51% of the marks for the government to say, yep, you're exactly where you should be in year 6. It's not huge, guys. That is 1 in every 2 questions. You could leave half the paper blank, but if you answered every other question correctly, you could still pass. And again, here's the data to back this up. So percentage required to pass, this is over the years. 55 in 2016, that was a tricky paper, so that's why the marks are a bit, that was a paper that was easier rather, so you needed 55% to get to the pass mark. 52% is what you needed in 2017, 55% in 2018, 53, and in 2023, you only needed half marks to get the expected standard. So again, we see a trend here. It's between 50 and 55 on average. Of course, this could change every year. We can't say for sure next year you're going to need 52% or whatever it is, but we know that it's not going to be 80%, is it? We're not going to need to get 80% to pass. It is a nice low target and a reasonable target at that. So what's fact 3? Well, it's kind of putting together fact 1 and fact 2. You could leave every year 6 question and still pass. That's what this means. Okay? We absolutely do not recommend that you do this. It would be crazy to go in and just leave the year 6 questions. But the point is that you could pass the SATs paper in maths by just answering year 3, 4, and 5 questions correctly. I mean, knowing this is really going to help our preparation, isn't it? Because there'll be some objectives in year 6 we just think, that's just too tricky for me. That is just really hard. And do you know what? Before I even attempt this year 6 objective, am I confident on the year 5 version or the year 4 version when it comes to fractions? If the answer is no, don't worry about that year 6 objective then. Go and make sure you learn the year 4 and 5 objective really, really, really well. And it's going to pay off because that could still come up in your SATs paper. Don't just think, oh, I need to do really well in year 6 because the whole test is going to be all about year 6. No. If you're stuck on a year 6 objective, simply just go back down year 5, year 4, year 3, take a look at the curriculum and get really strong at that. And again, I've just put these numbers together. Percentage required to pass, 55% in 2016. And 57% of the marks were from year 3, 4, and 5. So if you got every single question right in year 3, 4, and 5 that were on the SATs paper in 2016, you would have passed. Same in 2017. In 2018, you needed 2% more, so it wouldn't quite work. In 2019, 1% more, so you'd need to answer maybe 2 year 6 versions of those questions in the SATs. Oh, look at 2022. My goodness me, 63% of the paper was from year 3, 4, or 5. You only needed 53% to pass. That's easy and comfortable, and the same in 2023. So what trend do we see here? What's the fact we really need to know? Well, it's quite straightforward, guys. You need to have a balanced understanding of every curriculum you've covered from year 3, 4, 5, and 6. It is not just year 6 that's the important one. So again, if you're in year 6 and you're thinking, oh my gosh, this is so hard, honestly, don't worry too much. There's some year 6 objectives you'll get. Dip back, make sure you're confident with year 3, 4, and 5. Okay? Fact number 4. Some strands will come up more than others. Now, what do I mean by a strand? Maths has lots of strands. Okay? When I say maths to you, answer this maths question. It could be a shape question. It could be a place value question. It could be a fraction, a percentage, a decimal question. I don't know. These are called strands, okay? So we're going to break it down in a second. But what we mean by this, you can see here, look. Number and place value is a strand. So it might say, for example, what's the 4 worth in this number? Calculations is a strand. This is addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. FDP stands for fractions, decimals, and percentages, and the rest they kind of explain themselves, right? Now, here's what's really interesting. There's lots of numbers here, but let's just look at 2023, the last SATs that there was. Okay, let's just look at this column, for example. This here is the percentage of marks from that strand, or in this case, we call it a content domain, same thing. So, for example, here, 10% of the marks in 2023 were available by answering place value and number questions. Now, just take a look at these numbers down here. And you're probably making your own conclusions right away. Now, let's just think for a second. Let's go back. In 2023, we needed 51% to pass. Okay? So let's look here. We need 51% in 2023. Cool. How can I make 51% adding these questions together? Well, there are 2 strands that already make up more than 51% of the answers. Here we have calculations, 33%. Fractions, decimals, and percentages, 25%. Here's what this means. Here's the news flash. Here's the thing you really need to understand when you're preparing for these SATs papers. You can prioritize what you learn. Because if you were to add up 33 plus 25, I mean, hopefully we can all do that if we're preparing for our SATs, that's 58%. If you got every question of calculation, if you were really confident in addition, multiplication, subtraction, and division, and you were super confident with your fractions, your decimals, and your percentages, if you only answered those questions in the SATs paper and got them perfectly correct because you're an expert, you would pass. You would get well above the age expected standard. You would get 7% more than you need. And that just goes to show that if you're really stressing about algebra, for example, and you think, oh my gosh, guys, I just can't do algebra. It's really stressing me out. My well-being is getting ruined because I'm just so stressed all the time because I just can't do algebra. Guys, let go of it. It truly doesn't matter. You've got loads of time in secondary school to learn about algebra. And look, algebra is 7% of the marks. You could get them all wrong and still achieve greater depth if you've got everything else right. It's not the end of the world. Look, same for shapes, 6%. Look at this, position and direction, 2% of the marks. That's like one question in the entire test, a 2 or 3 mark question. Okay? It's not worth panicking over. What we should be doing is focusing on strands that we know will come up loads. And this isn't just a one-off. Look previously when it comes to calculation, 33%, 38% in 2022, 30% in 2019, 29, 22, 17. So we're seeing a trend, aren't we? As time goes on, there is more and more importance placed on calculation. Same for fractions, decimals, and percentages. Look, 15% in 2016. As time moves on, it becomes more and more weighted. So that is a trend that we can basically assume that is going to continue. And look at measurement. Measurement was 15%. And as time has gone on, fewer and fewer and fewer questions have been on measurement. So this is what Sophie B does amazingly well when it comes to this learning by question blog. She looks at previous data from 2016, which is when the new curriculum was imposed when it comes to the SATs, and we see these trends. And because we know these trends, and because you know these trends now, you understand what your teachers are doing when they're prepping you for these SATs, why they're prioritizing certain things. Why are we not looking maybe in full detail at position and direction yet? Well, this is why. This is why. Calculations is 15 times more valuable when it comes to the test. Now, as a teacher, I think we need to have really good teaching and understanding of all of these things. I don't think one is necessarily more important than the other. But look, guys, let's be realistic. If we're preparing for the SATs tests, this is what's going to happen. You could pass the SATs test just answering addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division questions, fractions, decimals, and percentages questions. That's a really important fact to know. And here's fact 5. Some question types have not come up at all in recent years. This is probably one of the most interesting things to see because your initial reaction might be, well, it's not come up in years. That means they're not doing it anymore. I would argue otherwise. I would say if something's on the curriculum and we've not seen it come up in a few years, it's probably time for it to come back around. So it's probably an indication that they're due to appear soon. Maybe even in the upcoming papers. And here we have strands that have not come up in 2 years. So in 2023 and 2022, these were simply not in the paper. This really shocked me. Roman numerals has not come up for 2 years. Okay, it's still on the curriculum. So could we expect to see it this year? Maybe. Might be worth brushing up on Roman numerals to get a few marks. I don't know. Money! My goodness. Money in terms of, coins. How much money can you make using these coins? How many coins is the least amount of coins to make 58p, for example? Those kind of questions. It's not come up in a while. Now, is it because it's being phased out because as a society we're using less and less cash? I don't know. But this is a fact. It's not come up. Anyone who watched my volume video recently will know that I said in the video I looked back through the papers and I could barely find any volume questions. It's not come up in a couple of years. My bet would be volume. There'll be a volume question on the SATs paper this year. Do I know that there'll definitely be a volume question? Of course I don't. No one knows until the real thing. But I would bet there probably would be. So these are really interesting things here to make sure that we think about. They might well come up, okay? Because these are on the curriculum and have not come up in a few years. Will they? Of course we don't know. Now, of course I said we've got 5 facts you need to know for the SATs. I've actually got a bonus fact. The SATs are more of an indication for your school than they are for you and the children personally, okay? It is more likely, and what I should say is how can I put this? The school are more likely to be worried about the SATs than you are. And if you find yourself worried about sitting the SATs papers, my advice to you is, honestly, it will be fine. It will be fine, and it's not worth getting worried about. Okay, traditionally, SATs results may have been used in secondary schools to think, okay, well, they got this kind of score, so I'm going to put them in this set with these children and help them out in that way. Maybe this, maybe that. That doesn't really happen much anymore either. When you go to secondary school, in the first few days, you'll probably sit some tests and they'll just check it themselves. Yeah? So my point here is the SATs are way more an indication of how the school is getting on and much less important for you personally. It's not worth stressing over. I say that to all the children who I prepare for the SATs. It is not worth stressing over. The only thing you have to do is go in and just try your best. Okay? It's as simple as that. All right? So it's not the end of the world. It will genuinely be fine. And guys, those facts, hopefully you can see how they might be useful to know before you go in. And what I'd say is keep an eye on our videos because we've got more prep coming your way. Please like, subscribe, and most importantly, share these videos with anyone you think they will help, because that's what gets us growing. We're past 10K subscribers now. We couldn't be happier. Thank you so much for your support, guys, and I'll see you next time.